Everybody, it's Leeroy from Leeroy Gaming. It is Thursday, September the 2nd, and that means it is time for another Dev News Thursday here on Outriders. So, in today's update, we got some exciting information to talk about. We're going to talk about some of the weapon mod buffs that just went live. We're going to be talking about the devs' plans for adjusting and improving the variety of the mod meta when it comes to weapon mods. And also, there's some exciting news and confirmation of changes coming to legendary sets. We're going to talk about all of that and more right after this. All right, guys, so we're going to start with some bad news and then jump right into the good news. The bad news is that the main patch that we're working on right now, it is not going to go live today. Good news is we got a little mini update that's going to buff some underused mods, but a lot more is coming, which I do feel is really, really good news for the game because, as a lot of other people have mentioned, what would be the point of doing minor balances and tweaks if bigger things aren't to come? On top of the hints of the New Horizons potential content to the future, I think there's some exciting stuff to come. Now, with that being said, let's jump into the news. So we're going to start with the general news. As mentioned, the upcoming patch is unfortunately not ready to release, but it is coming soon, hopefully. Hopefully not soon, TM. All right, so here are the weapon mods that officially got buffed as of right now. The Winter Blast mod has had its AoE range increased to 5 meters from 4 meters. And again, because we're talking about this is kind of like, 5 meters circumference, that actually adds a decent amount of surface area that's going to be impacted. Ultimate Anomaly Surge has had its damage increased by 137%, base 25 to 34.25. Now, remember, those numbers are for, I believe, level 1 equivalent. So the biggest thing you just need to know is that the percentage increase. It's going to do quite a bit more damage. Claymore Torrent has had its explosion damage increased by 210%. Ultimate Storm Whip has had its damage increased by 140%. And Strings of Gauss has had its damage increased by a massive 262%. So why are these buffs coming? Well, they have a lot to do with the weapon mod meta. And I'm going to go ahead and read to you exactly what the devs are saying here, because a lot of you that are in the know exactly what they're talking about. And if you're new or you don't follow kind of the meta when it comes to what mods are kings, this is going to kind of tell you all about that. So listen up. So you may notice that a few of the above mods fall within a very particular category. Mods, most of them are single target or cleave mods, meaning that their damage potential is limited to a single enemy or a small group of linked enemies. For the purpose of discussion, we refer to these mods as ST mods, that contrast with uncapped AoE mods, such as Moaning Winds. You're going to hear that mentioned quite a bit here, which deal damage to an unlimited number of enemies in their respective and usually a larger AoE radius. The current mod meta in Outriders current centers on 3 pillars: general AoE damage mods, i.e. Moaning Winds. Oh, my bad. Actually, that's the second pillar here. But this is going to be mods that just do AoE damage. So any one of the mods, like, on crit does an AoE blast, on hit, on death, etc. And then Moaning Winds and the quick cycling meta, and then the Fortress mod. So basically, they're stating that today's buffs are just the first step of trying to address this, because their big concern here is that we don't have variety. So let's talk about and see what they say about Pillar A, General AoE Damage mods. So according to our player data and community observations, there's currently an over-reliance on AoE damage mods, which is most likely the result of the way most enemy encounters and expeditions are structured. Players usually face hordes of enemies against whom such AoE mods are the most effective methods of playing. One-on-one or smaller mob group encounters are rare enough for the AoE mods to still do enough DPS to overcome these encounters, even though single target mods would likely be more effective here. This means that there's a strong under-reliance on single target mods, which is further exacerbated by some of these single target mods generally underperforming. So I want to really emphasize that is their underperformance. My concern right off the bat is, are they just going to nerf all the AOE mods? Um, they haven't been nerfing; they've been buffing pretty much ever since they said they're going to start doing that. So I really hope, and this is my own personal comment here, that they just keep on buffing the single and cleave mods to where eventually it could be viable, as opposed to nerfing the AOE mods. Storm Whip is an excellent example here. Is it its previous damage potential strongly underperformed, meaning few players chose the mod over better alternatives. And Storm Whip, by the way, was one that, depending on whether you had the ultimate Storm Whip or the Storm Whip, I believe it was every second or every 4 seconds, it would just proc a lightning that would come down from the sky and do like a flat damage against one enemy. Uh, it looked cool, but it was utter trash. While originally developing the OG Outriders mod experience, we had envisioned that players would ensure that both their weapons have fundamentally different mods, which makes sense, like one weapon for AoE, one weapon for single target. But that's when Moaning Wind came and ruined everything, as they're going to say here. So this brings us to the next two pillars, B and C. We believe and think that you'll agree, and I definitely do agree, that the current meta that involves B and C has fundamentally stifled the need to run anything else. In fact, if you kind of don't, you're limiting your DPS, unfortunately. There's little incentive to experiment with other mods when these will always be more powerful. So, Pillar B, Moaning Winds in a quick cycling meta. And I've kind of explained in a lot of my build videos exactly how to do this, but let me tell you, in case you haven't seen those build videos yet, how this works. So, Moaning Winds is one of the most dominant active mods currently in use. For anyone unaware, one of the most potent mod setups in the game right now is to stack the Moaning Winds mod on multiple weapons and empty your magazines, then run into a clump of enemies and cycle through your weapons, triggering this on reload mod and its substantial damage multiples time in a very short space of time. Some players are able to trigger Moaning Winds 3 times in a space of 2 second window. And some people kind of use kind of like not mods, but macros. But you could also do this by yourself without issues. This combo is especially effective in single player where enemies cluster around a single rather than 2 or 3 players. And needless to say, especially if you run maps that have a lot of the monsters that tend to get into melee, as opposed to the levels where there's human enemies and they tend to spread out. Note above is oversimplified, but intent is to mainly explain a concept. Yeah, that's correct. Although this is pretty accurate, and I don't think it's too oversimplified. Moaning Winds is therefore vastly outperforming its intended potential, making it one of the best active damage mods in the game, while also inviting a rather unorthodox playstyle. Oh man, vastly outperforming. I mean, I just smell nerf, and oh, I just hope they don't nerf it. And again, buff the other abilities, just because I just don't want to hear the hate, like, of people kind of screaming, "Oh my goodness, the one fun thing about the mods that we like, you guys broke," etc., etc. So, oh, I don't know, maybe the community won't be pessimistic, but I feel like I know better. So a single Moaning Wind mod by itself isn't necessarily a huge problem. It's mainly the double and triple stacking of it that causes an unnatural shift to expected playstyles. Uh, that's correct. Overall, even though a triple play stack is really not fun, like double play stack is good. The triple play stack, I don't know, I feel like it's a little too much, and literally all you're doing on your rotation is that, which I guess is okay. Overall, Moaning Winds is a big topic and deserves its own discussion thread, which will open in the future, along with historical context about how Moaning Winds came to be. All right, Pillar C, Fortress. Now, I want to point out, they're going to talk about how powerful this is. What they don't emphasize is the fact that this is predominantly a buff, a mod that's used for anomaly power builds. It is, of course, useful for all builds, but there are a couple other alternatives for weapon damage based builds. But this is the one and only mod that directly buffs anomaly power builds. So I do want to point that out before I read this. So they say the third and by far most problematic pillar is C, Fortress mod. The way Fortress currently works, it usually provides a passive and consistent 43% damage increase to damage the player inflicts. In essence, takes your normal damage and applied calculation of 1.43 to it. That's it. That's the mod. No gameplay loop, killer damage event, or special situation required. Well, technically you're supposed to have enough armor. which means you need to. I mean, I know that's not a gameplay loop, but there is some choices and sacrifices you would have to make. In the current DPS-oriented endgame, all players will naturally be trying to maximize the damage they're able to output, so the existence of Fortress in its current form essentially blocks a mod slot. Well, I feel like it blocks the mod slot only because there are literally no alternatives, especially for anomaly power builds. Again, I'm concerned that they're going to nerf this down or change it so dramatically that the worst thing could be is that could happen is there could be no options for anomaly power builds as far as useful mods to increase DPS. So I hope either A, they add new mods, which would be great, and if they add new mods, they can either alter it slightly, as long as there's alternatives that work decently well or equally as well in different ways, and then you have variety. But don't nerf this or break it or remove it or anything like that, because again, while this is a big buff to weapon damage builds, it is quite literally the only option for buffing any kind of spells, quote unquote, your anomaly power abilities. All right, by not combining Fortress with your chosen primary mod, you may well be sacrificing DPS, which is a philosophical question we're not comfortable with you needing to face. We want you to have a free choice of multiple different combinations without feeling that you're missing out because you didn't choose Fortress. Again, if this isn't a hint that they're going to be adding new mods or reworking mods to work completely differently, meaning having multiple mods that actually provide anomaly power buffs, then I don't know what is. So that is very, very important to note. Now, we also continue to be very aware that a timer-based endgame is part of the problem in that it forces a DPS-oriented build rather than a survival or just pure fun build. That is correct. Again, are they hinting? There may be like a horde mode coming, maybe? That's about surviving as long as you can and nothing to do with time. Let's hope so. I don't think that would be that hard to implement. They could even create like one arena where just tons and tons of mods come in. I mean, we have a Coliseum map. You could take that Coliseum portion and expand on that a little bit and just have that mode and have hordes come throughout the gates more and more and faster and faster. That would be cool. Let me know if you agree in the comments below. These are the current challenges that we believe the Outriders weapon mod meta is facing today. Today's buffs are only the first steps in remedying the situation. We are starting with a partial look at Pillar A. We will discuss Pillar B and C and the best way to tackle them in the future. Now, here is some other exciting news. Note that we are also working on changes to certain underutilized legendary sets, i.e. pretty much everything outside of like the 3 or 4 sets that are being used, hopefully. However, as these changes will also require code work, we'll talk more about them closer to their release. So hopefully this doesn't take forever. So those are kind of the big mod meta changes, the big news. Now we're going to go ahead and cover the patch news. So if you missed that last week a little bit, there's I think a couple updates here. We'll go ahead and cover those right now. All right, so patch news. So again, it's still not ready, but here are the big things they're working on. Further improving the visibility of Bloodmother's Surge AoE skill limits. Fix the bug that prevented players from reviving themselves and others after using Trickster Borrowed Time skill. Resolved an issue could cause the game to stutter when engaging crawlers in battle during expeditions. Thank goodness. Resolved an issue that could cause players to stutter when entering the Drained Lake during the 3rd enemy encounter in the Scorched Land expedition. That's basically when the lake drains. Resolved an issue that prevented secondary characters from picking up journal entries that had already been collected on a different character. Resolved an issue that would force matchmaking privacy settings to default to open. It should remain closed when set. It should help further reduce AFK matchmaking. And they added an AFK status for players on friend lists. Changed the behavior that the Devastators impale so that the game will detect impaled enemies as dead even before they disappear. So this is important because the reason, if you don't know, this is a problem is if something is kind of impaled currently in that state, the game thinks it is not dead. And a lot of times there's events or progressions of a map that do not activate until everything in an area is dead. So this can cause you 3, 5, 6, 7 or so seconds loss. And that can add up and it can make it so you miss a gold timer, for example. The Devastator's Reflect Bullet skill will now protect from Scythian projectile attacks. Again, I'm not 100% sure which those are. I'm assuming they're like the little monsters that spit at you. Fixed a bug that could prevent Devastators from being able to consistently dodge if they had auto reflect mode active. So this is the one where like you can activate it, and when this mod is on, you can keep shooting, etc. And this would last even after the mod would like disable, not the mod, but the skill would end. So you just couldn't roll the entire run, and that's been a pain for a long time. Fix the bug that could cause client shots to sometimes deal no actual damage to enemies. That's rough. Fix the bug that could cause the Technomancer's Plague Sower set bonus to not proc consistently. I would recommend fixing the set because it is garbage. Fix the bug that could cause the Plague Sower and the Cannonball legendary sets to not retain their set bonuses after transition. The set is garbage. The itemization is garbage. The set bonuses are underwhelming. So I don't know if anybody really cares about this, but it is a bug, so I'm glad it's being fixed. Fix the bug that could cause certain mods like Grand Opening to not proc if the player was on their last magazine. And then some crash fixes and other minor bug fixes. So those are the things that are going to be addressed in this patch that it looks like hopefully will be next week. But again, I am more excited about some of these upcoming changes. And again, more and more hints that more changes, more updates, and hopefully more new content is to come. If you're excited like me, make sure you comment below. And if you have any questions for me, let me know. Make sure to join me on my streams. I still stream on Twitch Monday through Thursday at twitch.tv/Leeroy Gaming Stream and at /schedule. You can check out the schedule so you can come and join me. Get some free CT15 runs. If you still need your Eye of the Storm clear, no problem. We can help you out. Or just come hang out, listen to some cool music with me, have some fun, share some jokes. All right, guys. This has been the Thursday News Update, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Make sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and smash that notification bell. See you guys.